Welcome back to Awaken Inner Wisdom, the live show where we turn heartbreak into healing and soul whispers into real life guidance. The last few weeks, we've been exploring what happens when faith feels fragile. Those moments when doubt, fear, or uncertainty can shake our connection to something greater. If you missed those episodes, I highly recommend you go back in the links below and check out what we went through when faith feels fragile. And I don't mean religion, I mean on the Awaken Ascension journey. It's also a powerful reminder that in even the darkest moments, your soul is still speaking. Now, today, we're continuing the conversation by focusing a little bit differently, but on a different kind of fragility, the kind that shows up when your spiritual awakening begins to really impact your relationships and oftentimes can isolate you. Maybe your family doesn't get it, or your partner's not growing with you, or your friends still live in that old frequency and you are expanding. It can feel really lonely at times, disorienting, and even sometimes painful. But here's the truth. You're not alone, and you don't have to figure this out by yourself. In fact, this is the space for you to write in, comment, ask questions. If you're watching here with me live, you can put them in the comments. If you're on replay, you can also write into bethbell.me/question, enter your question, and I'll be sure to incorporate it into next week's show. It's a place where you can really tune into your heart and ask the questions. What is it that I really need to know about this person, place, or thing? Relationships to love and life can be challenging, but they don't have to. And so reaching out to get a little bit of extra help or assistance and really tuning into that intuitive insight that can help you navigate some of the most difficult relationships is what this show is all about. I'm so happy you're here. Thank you for joining in. We've got a whole lineup of questions. I can't wait to get through them, and I look forward to your comments. So if you're watching, please put in the comments if you like something, you don't like something, you have a different idea. Your thoughts are always helpful for other listeners and viewers because we're in this journey together. All right, let's jump in and get started. Question number 1. I feel like I'm losing touch with the people around me. Am I doing something wrong or just growing? And I like this question because I think that when we say the word growing, what does that actually mean? Oftentimes I think we think of like outgrowing something, or we're growing up, or we're becoming something different. And in many ways that's true. But when it comes to the ascension journey and really awakening that inner wisdom, a lot of times what that means is that you're growing out of old concepts. You're growing out of the way that you think the world works. And when we do that, we push buttons from everybody else. Everybody else is like, wait, you're seeing things differently? How? Why? They challenge us. They're like, that doesn't make sense. And so we're constantly having to integrate these more expanded states of consciousness and these ideas that we're learning, we're feeling, we're intuiting. And yet they're not necessarily being received by the ones around us in a way that makes them feel comfortable. And when they reflect back to us that discomfort, it also makes us feel uncomfortable. So I understand why you're losing touch with people. It's a really interesting journey. When we first wake up, there's a lot of times that people just start to not resonate with us, and it can cause a lot of friction. And so I would say, when you feel that friction, it's not about finding the fighting points. And I know that doesn't feel like the vibration of why you're asking the question, but it's finding the touch points from the heart. It's finding the deeper lessons in the discord. Why am I feeling like I'm losing touch with people? It's actually just your vibrational frequency, your ideas, your thought patterns are all starting to change. And for a good reason, because you're expanding. And, a lot of times in that expansion, it doesn't feel comfortable because it's like a butterfly coming out of a cocoon. You're struggling a little bit to see things differently. There's fear, like what's coming on the other side of this. And then when you get your wings and you take flight, there's other fears that come in. So it's a constant ongoing ascension journey that we're on when we're awakening. But the whole purpose is to tune in to that inner wisdom, to tune in to source energy that keeps you connected to your higher self, keeps you connected to all the energies around you that are here for your highest good, and to also have some discernment around the things that maybe aren't here for your highest good, or to challenge you in a way that helps you to continue to ascend. And so that's where these relationships and losing others can oftentimes come in, and it feels uncomfortable. So I get it. I don't think you're doing anything wrong. I think you are growing, but I like to use the word, because this is what's coming forward, is expanding. You're expanding beyond your beliefs. You're expanding beyond your programming. You're expanding beyond how the world works, actually. And you're offering, when you do this, and as you go through the ascension journey even further, you're going to find that you become a light on the path. You become a leader. You become a way, if you're not already, to really show people that there is a different way. So great question. A lot of people are dealing with this, especially now when people are waking up at such high levels and really wanting to get, like, what is the meaning of life? Why am I here? What's happening? Okay, let's jump into the next question here. How do I handle the emotional highs and lows of awakening without feeling like I'm crazy? Yeah, and a lot of people are going to try to tell you, "Hey, you're crazy. You're doing things that don't make sense." And they're not going to make sense, because that's really the point. The point is that a lot of times when our heart speaks, our soul speaks, we have a knowingness, and we say, I just know that I need to go, or I just know that I need to do this. And that doesn't always bode well for other people. Now, I will say that you should tune in, tap in, and validate. Hey, this is the hit that I have, because sometimes it can just be an emotional hit. Sometimes it can be that you're running from something, as opposed to, even running to something sometimes isn't the place that we want to be. It's that we're pausing and we're just knowing, so that we don't have to run either way. We don't have to look at it as good or bad, but that we just are moving ever so slowly in a direction, and sometimes quickly, in a direction that feels resonant with what our soul's calling is. And so a lot of times that can just feel, it can feel really, really difficult, because it's not your traditional way. And your typical pros and cons list might not be your ally in those moments. Now, with that said, there's been a lot of times when I have used my pros and cons list, because I'm like, ooh, I feel this. I get the validation, which is oftentimes I'll say, hey, I feel really resonant with this idea. But my mind is telling me, all of these fear-based thoughts as to why I shouldn't do it. So I wait, and I wait, and usually very quickly, within days, if not a week, I find that I'll get reflections back that gives me a go, no go reason to say yes to something that feels a little bit more innately within me, not necessarily logical from my mind. And that's where I think, where you're saying, am I crazy? It feels like sometimes we are, because we're not doing it the typical way. So you're not crazy. You're following your heart. You're following your soul's plan. And I highly encourage you to keep going on it. But tune in, get the validation points, look for at least 3 validation points that say yes. And they can be random. It can be from a stranger. It can be something that just comes into your field, and you're like, oh, I know that that's a validation point for me. And you'll know that it's not just a knee-jerk reaction, or something that's coming more from emotion that is running from or running to something else, but that you're actually anchored in to what it is that your soul is asking you to do, and finding the curiosity of, where is this leading me? Because the mind is going to tell you, you better know where you're going. And oftentimes you don't know where you're going. And as long as you can stay in that blissfully neutral state to just explore, thank you for giving me that strong hit. Thank you for giving me the people, places, and things that got me to the next step. And be in that gratefulness with curiosity, you're going to find that the mind will start to quiet. It's still going to come online. It's still going to say at times you're crazy. You're going to ask other people to reflect to you that perhaps you're crazy. And I'm using that word lightly, knowing that we're not saying legitimately crazy, but that we're just doing things differently. And that oftentimes creates a lot of discord for a lot of people. It puts ripples into the water, and it puts a kink in people's plans for you. And that's where stepping through is so important to continue to follow your soul's plan from a very self-full place, not necessarily selfish place, but where you're really soulfully in a soulful place, finding your way. All right. Hopefully that is helpful. I think the question, just to gauge back, is how do I handle the emotional highs and lows of awakening without feeling like I'm crazy? And I guess I went a little bit more into like that decision making, because when we feel like these highs and we feel like everything's working, it's easy to follow the heart. But when we feel like, oh, wait, it's really the mind coming in trying to judge us based on the decisions that we've made. So I think that's also what's causing some of those emotional highs and lows, and finding that blissfully neutral state that gets us back to, okay, this happened, this presented, this showed up for me, and I made a decision, and I made a decision that I'm going to move forward with. Now, when the mind comes in and brings in that low, it's trying to judge you. It's trying to judge, why did you make that decision? Or you shouldn't have made that decision. Or, lots of things come into play, especially when we're making these really anchored in soulful decisions that others aren't necessarily going to support. Chances are you're going to get a lot of support, but you're still going to get the little stickers here and there from people because it's just a different way. All right, let's go on to the next question. I always love, if any of this resonates for you or you have further questions, please put it in the comments and I will be sure to pick it up next week. Here's the next question. Why does my heart feel more sensitive and raw than ever before? On the ascension journey, oftentimes that rawness comes because you've gone through a heartbreak of some kind, a heartbreak of possibly losing a job, or a career doesn't feel aligned, a heartbreak of a family member, a heartbreak of a loss, whether it's a romantic loss or loss via death. It creates this openness within your heart, this vulnerability that helps you to really expand if you don't close your heart. So if you go back in and you're closing your heart to try to protect your heart, which is very normal and common that we try to do this, but I would like to just offer that we take away that normalcy and say, no, actually our innate birthright is to keep our hearts open. It's to keep expanding. It's to keep welcoming some of these things that happen to us that feel, and I don't mean that you're asking for more of these things that make us feel heartbroken. I'm suggesting that when our heart is broken, that we walk into it and we walk through it, because what happens innately is we try to avoid it. We try to not feel it. We try to not want to be in it. And so that really is the journey that you're on, is to keep going with an open heart. Yes, there's times when we have to use our discernment. And yes, we want to protect our heart from a very soulful place, but not in a blocked place, not in a place that we block out others, not in a place where we don't feel our feelings or communicate our feelings. Again, discernment is nice when we need to know, who should I be communicating my vulnerability to and when. So there is an element of timing, but it is about allowing yourself. And maybe it just means that, I need to leave the situation, if you can, and go home and cry about it so that you can feel it. We're all busy in life in so many ways. And so oftentimes when those emotions come, we want to stop them because we're out and about, we're doing something, we're with a friend. And I think that it's really important to just allow yourself to feel those feelings. And so being more sensitive and raw than ever before is a beautiful place to be. Now, if you're saying like that you're finding yourself like constantly crying and you can't stop and you're not able to shift your state, which is not what I'm getting from you, but just in the event that there's someone else out there that says, yeah, that's where I'm at, then I think what would be really helpful is to pause, do some journaling, sit with yourself, ask yourself some tough questions. Am I stuck in the story? If I'm stuck in the story, why? What is it that I am, and I say this word a little bit loosely, but addicted to? What emotion am I addicted to? Is it abandonment? Is it loneliness? Is it, what is it disappointment? Is it, an emotion that you find is a pattern? And oftentimes those patterns can just keep us in this loop. And when we're in the loop, yeah, then we can be really emotional, and we can find that it's difficult to get out of the sadness, get out of the, yeah, that feeling that we don't want to be in. So there is sort of this place that we want to acknowledge. Like, am I cleansing and clearing something and being emotional and raw so that I can move through it? Or am I finding myself stuck in a story where I'm literally stuck in the shit of what it is that I don't want? And the more I focus on what I don't want, the more I'm going to get people that play out those same roles. It's a pattern. And so, yeah, just use a little discernment, and through journaling, like, where are the tears coming from? And is it time for the tears to move through me, not keep me stuck in whatever the story is that's caused the pain and heartache? So it's a soft way to acknowledge that I'm having an emotion and I want to feel that emotion, but I don't want to get stuck in that emotion. I want to allow myself to really cleanse and clear. And that also may come with doing a meditation where you're just doing a body scan. Like, you're starting at the top and you're saying, I just want to, and if the chakras are helpful for you, they're often helpful for me because they're energy centers, and focusing on, our seventh chakra and moving on down and really coming through our body. This is like you're laying down, your eyes are closed, you're in a quiet space, and you're just, or if you're somewhere and you have to be sitting, you can do this as well. You could do it in the airport. If you practice at this, you can really do this anywhere, because you're going inward and you're not focused on your attention on the external spaces. So you're going in and you're feeling into yourself, you're feeling into your energy. Like, where is the is it in my head? Is it in the story? Is it something I haven't said? Is it something that I need to say? Is someone continuing to hurt me because I need to practice speaking my truth and asking them to stop, or sharing with them how it's hurting me? There's could be a lot there. Or is it that my heart is closed? Is it that I'm dealing with my own heartbreak, and that it's something related to past heartbreak, not necessarily current heartbreak? And am I asking people to continue to come into my life and break my heart so that I can get to that deeper, deeper, deeper heartbreak that is innately there? A lot of times these heartbreaks, they happen at a very tender young age, when we're teenagers and we have our first big love and we experience love outside of us. And then, something happens, and it changes the trajectory of our ability to be open to love for the rest of our lives. Or it could be that it's something that happened in your family, something with your mother, your father, a brother or sister, where someone violated your innocence, your innocence to love yourself, your innocence to love others. And you said, I'm not going through that again. And you closed up. So really get in there. Use this rawness as a way to understand, what is my heart calling me to know and to feel, and to allow yourself to feel from here, and not just from here, not just from those storylines that are continuing to circulate in your head. All right. I love the questions. Please, if you have any comments, something resonates, or you want a little bit more, please put it in the comments, and I'll be sure to send a reply or to add it to next week's show. And of course, you can always go to bethbell.me and schedule a session, and we can go deeper into something that might be weighing heavy on your heart. Let's get into the next question. Okay, this one's actually very similar. I cry easily now, sometimes over things I can't explain. Is this part of my soul waking up? Yes. And I would say that your soul is always awake. So your soul isn't waking up. Your consciousness is waking up to remembering back to who you really are. And in that time period, a lot of times, crying is a way of releasing. It's just you're releasing. Your body stores everything that happens to you. We don't focus a lot of time on this. We don't learn this in school. We don't learn this in college. We don't learn this in early life a lot of times, unless you're with a parent or a friend who's, a somatic therapist, or someone who really understands how to keep you grounded back in the body, because our fight or flight kicks in at a young age, and we are in survival, and we're in, I have to fit in. I want to make money. I want to, and not that any of these concepts are bad, they're just not balanced. They're not balanced with knowing how to feel our feelings and manage our emotions, and be able to experience life in a way that helps us expand, as opposed to experiencing life in a way that contracts us. And a lot of what society does, and a lot of what the learnings are, is that contraction. Is that like, oh, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be perceived as that. I don't want to be understood as that. And so the more we can just let those ideas go, and let the idea go, I don't need to be that. I know who I am. I am who I am. And anchoring into, yeah, sometimes we do things that we're not proud of, and recognizing, oof, I know I am not that. And I need to process that, and I need to cry about that, and I need to allow myself to feel that I did that to someone else, or they did something to me, or something just happened in the universe, in the world, in war, and all these things that happen. Yes, allow yourself to feel. I think that's the biggest misnomer, is that feeling seems to get this bad rap, that, it shows a sign of weakness. We know that it doesn't. Do we look at our kids when they're crying and they're still in that really innocent state and say, oh, they're weak, stop crying, you're weak? No, we tell them to stop crying a lot of times because we don't want to have the discomfort, and we don't want to create an uncomfortable situation for other people if we're in public. But if we really just sat with the feeling like, oh gosh, why are you feeling that way? What if people helped us do that? Standing out at a bus stop and you're feeling tearful, and if somebody just said to you, oh gosh, I see that there's a lot of emotion, I just want to honor you for allowing yourself to feel them. And that might either have that person, really dive into a puddle of tears, or it might just help them just be seen, and help them be recognized that they're here, and that they're having an experience, and an experience that is uncomfortable potentially for them, and uncomfortable for other people. So I think the more we can help people have the experience, the more we can help people have the expansion, because we're not shamed or blamed for having a feeling about something. So I think it's great that you're crying easily. I just think that, yeah, we want to feel into the bigger lesson as to why the tears, and to just know that your soul is awake, online all the time, and that it's really your expansion of consciousness that is waking up and shaking you up in a way that sometimes just doesn't feel comfortable, and that's okay. Life isn't always about feeling comfortable. In fact, the things that make us feel uncomfortable are oftentimes the biggest lessons that we've set ourselves up to learn. So there is beauty in discomfort. All right, let's jump into the next question. How do I trust my emotions when they feel so unpredictable? Okay, feels like control, that we don't want to predict our emotions. I had a situation this morning. I was talking on the phone to some loved ones dear to my heart, and I just felt emotional. And I just had to sit for a minute and tune in. I didn't cry. I wasn't emotional with them, but I hung up, and I felt emotional. And I had to feel into that. I had to feel into what is it that helped me feel. And I was like, yeah, it's that I really care about these people, and I really want these people to be in my life. And I have a desire to share with them vulnerabilities, and the thought of losing them for any reason, death, discomfort in the relationship, just unavailability. That was sad to me, thinking like, oh, maybe they're just not available for me right now. Maybe I can't have the relationship with them that I want to have, even though they may be family, or someone that feels like family. So again, it goes back to that unpredictability that emotions come sometimes at the most unopportune times, and yet it's the best opportunity to take, because that's the time when it's bubbling up. And if we shut it down, and okay, I know, like if you're in the middle of a meeting and you're in the middle of a presentation, sometimes you do have to kind of suck it up and you have to be in that moment. But what I'm saying is that when you leave that you find time and space to have that conversation with yourself of, what caused that? What got me there? Why did I feel that way? And I think that's going to help you to try to stop thinking that things need to be predictable and to think that you're out of control when they're unpredictable, because it is really anchored in the concept of control and wanting to control something. And the more we can allow ourselves to not be in control. Now, there's some really important nuances here, I would say, that are coming through that I don't mean out of control, like, I'm out of control. I mean out of control where you're just welcoming and blessing and being grateful for whatever it is that comes your way. It's such an important concept, and one that we're all practicing, and one that we have to practice at some of the most challenging times. It might be, sitting in traffic. It might be a line at the DMV. These are moments in time giving us unpredictability to feel our emotions and to feel our feelings, and to also allow ourselves to flush through those feelings and to allow those emotions to really work their way out and show us that, hey, there might be something here to dust off. And maybe we want to do a little bit more work with those emotions when we're back home and we're journaling or we're meditating or we're having a conversation with a friend. So don't worry about the unpredictability. Look at it as fun. If everything was predictable, it'd be no fun. If everything was, worked exactly how we thought, I mean, there would be nothing left for spontaneity and the fun of not knowing what's coming next. All right, great question though. We all work with unpredictability as a control mechanism for us, and I get it. Let's move into the next question. I used to be so productive. Why do I feel so disconnected from doing lately? Probably because you're focused on being, and that is a good thing. But there is a balance to this, right? There's a balance to doing and being. And sometimes it's hard to know when to flex into one versus the other. If we are being called to take a pause and to be more in the being state, and we continue to do, we know what happens. We get hit over the head in some way, shape, or form, figuratively speaking, by probably our guardian angels or whatever it is that you believe in. And it comes in the form of an accident. It comes in the form of job loss. It comes in the form of the unpredictable things that we were just speaking about. And so what we really want to do is we really want to have that awareness and knowledge about the doing being state balance. And right now it feels like, for whatever reason, your soul is saying, I need to be in the being. And in fact, I was just listening to someone talk about depression and how depression is really about needing deep rest. And that it's a time when you really want to be stepping out of the stories that are suppressing you, and creating an energetic environment within your mind based on thoughts, but in your heart and in your body based on a heaviness, on a weight that feels hard to move through. And sometimes that rest, that soulful rest, is so important. As we rest, it's important to remember that if we allow our mind to run the resting, it could take us deeper into the hole. And so it's, how do we keep our mind offline? How do we rest in a way that we're in our hearts and in our body? And that may be if you have a pet, that you spend some time with your pet. It may be that if you have friends that are just like not dramatic. You just say, hey, can you just come over and have a little cuddle puddle with me, or whatever works, that whatever helps bring you that feeling that you're not alone, that feeling that you're in this together, that feeling that you're just allowing yourself to process that next step, that next level, that next big move. Or it might just be that tiny little stumble, and you're just wanting to just really feel into it and move through it. The productivity part, I understand sometimes we still have to push through, and we do have to get things done, and we do have to sort of, I don't like the word make things happen, but we do have to do things that help us move things forward and not stay stuck. But I would just ask you to consider how you could reframe productivity, because sometimes that deep rest and those pauses are the most productive thing you could do, because a new idea comes in, a new way of doing it comes in. Oh, I could ask that person for support, or oh, this could happen. And so in those moments where you listen to your soul speak, they can be and are, whenever you're listening to your soul speak, they are the most productive moments, because you're getting out beyond the fray of your environment, your current situation, and you're experiencing wisdom and insight. You are awakening that inner wisdom. And so that is very productive. So just consider that maybe the word productive or productivity is being overly defined by your programs, by your external environment, by your job, your boss, your who knows, your family, your children, and that only you really know what feels productive to you. But again, I'm asking you to even redefine that within yourself, because there's a program in there that's telling you that you're not productive, when it may be that the productivity of listening to your soul is what you really, really need. All right. I'd love to hear your comments if that resonates for you. And if it spurs on another question, put it in the comments. Let's talk about it. Okay. Let's jump into the next question here. We're almost down to the end of the hour here. I feel tired all the time, even after resting. Is this spiritual exhaustion? Well, it's interesting that this comes on the heels of the last question, because I think that there is a time when we have allowed our energy system to release. I recently had something where I had a transmission that happened, and it took me down that whole day. My energy, I was just like, wow, is this because I was walking? It was like I went through this whole laundry list of things that I thought maybe that I had done that created this sort of crash within me. And then I realized, no, this was a transmission that happened. And that it was actually a cleansing and a clearing, and that things were being removed from my field energetically and physically within me. So yeah, there could be an element of spiritual exhaustion, but I'm feeling for you that there's a bigger part of this that might be related to your diet. It might be related to your exercise, and it might be related to other people sucking on your energy. So think about, who are the people that are in my life, personally, professionally, and are they filling my cup, or are they sucking my light? And when you start to recognize, not from a blame perspective, but you just recognize, oh yeah, when I was so and so, they really kind of make me feel like I'm drained afterwards. Then you know, oh, okay, I need to have greater discernment. Now, depending upon where you are in your journey, you may or may not resonate with this, but I have found this to be incredibly helpful. That if I know I'm going to be with someone that I have to be with that is draining, I just put up a protective shield. I put let's say an imaginary bubble, a bubble of light, something that just says, hey, I want to honor my own energy. I want to honor my own space. And I want to honor that this person may not be in the same place that I am. And I also don't feel that I need to take on their issue, their problem, their energy. There's no solution that I need to provide. I just need to be me and be anchored into the light that I have within myself, the vibration that I'm feeling, and help me. show me, help me, and ask for that field of light. You can envision it similar to even just when you're out blowing bubbles with kids, and the bubble gets big. You can envision it like that. And you know how there's just this beautiful, like, sometimes light that's around it. You can even envision that you're covered by this whole bubble, this orb that's keeping you really centered in your own energy, and keeping you really in your most your brightness, your brightness within, and you're circulating that, and you're having a resurgence of energy that is self-sustaining, so that you're not actually being impacted by the people that are around you. And I think on the ascension journey, this is such an important tool to have in your spiritual toolbox, to be able to be in some of the craziest situations, but then just really be in a place of peace and love and understanding, in a place where you can continue to keep your heart and mind open, and not allow others to take from it, but to be an example of what it is like to be an awakened wonder, is what comes to mind to say, and to be able to be out there walking the planet and shining your light and showing the way. All right, let's do one more quick question here. How do I find peace in the unknown when I used to need control? I think it goes back to what we said earlier, which is stay in the curiosity, stay in the discovery, stay in there is something at play that is so much bigger than me. And if I relinquish the idea that I need to have all the answers and I need to know what's happening next, magic can happen. It's so important that we do this. It's so important that we just really get into that space of stepping forward. I like to call it intuitive risk taking, and following our soulful guidance. With that, I'll say I love each week that you are here with me live. I appreciate all the questions, all the comments, and I look forward to having you every Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. Now, if you want to go deeper and you have something really weighing heavy on your heart, or something you want to work out in your mind, please go to bethbell.me. We can work together. There's sessions you can set up. There's private questions you can have. You can join the Awaken Inner Wisdom membership, where we go much deeper, and where you have more of a voice in a conversation, because we're not just doing it on comments, but we're actually able to get into the depths of some of the issues that you may be having, but also with an overarching themes that are so anchored into what we experience on this awakening ascension journey. So I hope to see you at bethbell.me. You can sign up for the Awaken Inner Wisdom membership, or you can simply ask a question. There's also the Awakening and Healing Handbook that has just a plethora of resources to help you navigate your spiritual awakening journey. All right, until next week, I am wishing you so much bliss and love on the journey. Namaste.